Today on CityCast DC, the Commanders just renamed their stadium in Landover. You might remember it as FedEx Field. That's not the case anymore. It's Northwest Field, after Northwest Federal Credit Union. But really, most DC eyes are instead on RFK Stadium over in Northeast, and whether or not the Commanders are coming back there. The Washington Business Journal's Ben Peters has been reporting on the next step the DC government just took towards that reality. Today is Thursday, August 29th. I'm senior producer Julia Karen, and here's what DC is talking about. Ben, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Alrighty, so you are at Washington Biz Journal, and you reported that the city has quietly, although maybe not quietly anymore, commissioned a study about bringing DC's football team back to the city, to their old ancestral site home at RFK Stadium. There's been a lot of angry chatter about this study. So who is running the study and what is their deal?
The Office of the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development, Nina Albert, authorized the $565,000 deal with SMG Holdings, LLC, which is an affiliate of the entertainment facilities management firm ASM Global, which is a huge worldwide firm that operates 400 facilities like stadiums. They have at least 7 NFL stadiums, which, according to the deputy mayor, is more than any other single management firm. So this is kind of their bread and butter, is organizing big facilities like one that could be at RFK.
Got it. All right. You mentioned that this was going to cost $565,000. I imagine people are not thrilled at that figure. Are there other reasons why people are upset about the study?
I know that I saw just some chatter on Twitter that people felt like, the city's already been here before. They've already done this. Why are we paying for this again? And the city has done contracts like this before. They did one back in 2023 with JLL and the Robert Bob Group to develop financing models for a sports facility in DC. Or for sports facilities, I should say, in DC, which includes a football stadium. And that was a little bit less detailed of a study than this. And to be clear, we don't actually know what the results of this study are. It's still in the works, and it's going to be completed sometime here in the coming months. And so then we'll get kind of a better idea of what their actual findings are. But right now, all this is the city paying this firm to go to the drawing board and do a bunch of research and say, hey, how can we make this a reality? How can we pay for it? How can we get the NFL on board to come back to RFK? So, yeah, I don't quite know why people are upset about it, other than just it's more money being spent to study a thing that some people want and some people don't.
You also mentioned that there was a previous study that was released, a couple months ago. How is this one supposed to be different from that one? Like, what's expected to be in this new study, and how is the city justifying the need for the second one?
I think this one is just much more detailed. Like, it's asking this firm to go through and, like, for example, here, they want like 5-year operating projections for what it would cost to operate a facility the size of an NFL stadium. They have estimates for NFL tenant operating expenses, which is like the cost of players, the cost of administration, sales, marketing, stadium rent, PR. Like, I don't want to sound flippant, but it's almost like the city's asking them to like create a line item budget for what it would cost to have an NFL team here beyond just building a stadium.
Yeah, isn't that a good thing, though? Like, if you're a detractor from this and you want to know, hey, it's actually going to cost X amount of dollars for taxpayers to do this thing, isn't this just like the city putting a plan in action, maybe doing their due diligence?
I guess if you think that that's something that tax dollars should be spent on, it's a good thing. Again, it's just they're asking, I think, for a lot more details than we've previously seen before. And if you're somebody who is interested in bringing the Commanders back to Washington, I don't know. I don't see why you'd be upset about this. It seems like this is working toward that goal.
So what's the significance of this study in particular? Like, what does it say about DC's commitment to getting the Commanders to RFK Stadium in the future?
I mean, they're putting their money where their mouth is, I think. They want the Commanders here. I mean, Mayor Bowser has been pretty clear about that as a priority of hers, is bringing the city back to the district and trying to revitalize RFK, I mean, they're going to tear down the stadium that exists there. It's just kind of sat there vacant for a while. And it's just an eyesore in the area. And they want to revitalize it, make it a mixed use neighborhood, bring a team back, create energy there. I don't want to say make it like Navy Yard, but I think that that's kind of the idea, is to revitalize it, bring vibrancy to that space.
Yeah, and they're going to pay for it partially too, right? That was also what you reported in this contract?
Yeah, I mean, they asked the consultant in the financing of this. I think the exact wording is something like local jurisdictions can use to help pay for this. And I spoke with somebody in the deputy mayor's office and asked them to kind of clarify what they mean by that. And they said pretty explicitly, we're asking them to say, how can the district pay for this? So I think that that's explicitly what they're asking, is to see how DC can make this happen.
So do you think this study will ultimately help or hurt the Commanders' chances of returning to the district, coming back to RFK Stadium? How are you reading the tea leaves on that?
I think it'll help. I mean, I think that it's just the more detail, the better in any proposal like this. I mean, this is just hypothetical, but if you're the mayor, you can go to the council and say, look, this consultant said that this is going to generate, X amount of revenue for the city over X amount of years. It's going to cost us only this much, and we're going to make this, site that's just languishing. We could make it a place that people want to be. So I don't know. I mean, I guess it's like, is talking about it more going to make it more likely to happen? It's kind of an open question.
Let's be real, lawsuits are not fun, but with Paulson & Nace, at least they're a little easier. Paulson & Nace is a DC law firm in every sense of the word. It was founded here in 1979. Partner Chris Nace is a local who cares deeply about the DC community, even serving on the board of the local branch of the Living Classrooms Foundation in his free time. Nace and his associates Samantha Peters and Maya Perry handle medical malpractice, wrongful death, and other complex injury cases. And they don't just settle every case. They'll go to court. They'll fight for you. Paulson & Nace has even been recognized as one of U.S. News' best law firms. So if you have been hurt or lost a loved one because of someone else's mistake or negligence, call Paulson & Nace for a no-obligation consultation. Visit www.paulsonandnace.com. That's PAULSONANDNACE.com. Or call 202-463-1999.
It's that time of year again. The Maryland Renaissance Festival is here, and if you've never been, you don't know what you're missing. I go every year because when else can you dress up like a hot medieval knight and double fist turkey legs? There's so much to see and do. It's like a 16th century theme park with shops and pubs, music and performances, all just an hour from DC. My personal favorite is the live jousting, which can get alarmingly competitive and realistic. The festival opens August 24th and runs Saturdays, Sundays, and Labor Day Monday through October 20th. Tickets are online only at MarylandRenaissanceFestival.com, and they're cheaper through September 8th, so get yours now, and I'll see you there.
So your beat is with commercial real estate. And as part of that, one interesting footnote was that DC also just committed more than $500 million to renovate Capital One Arena, which I guess you could call commercial real estate in some regards. Why is the city, you think, doubling down on all of this sports infrastructure right now?
It's a good question. If I had to speculate on why, I think part of it's placemaking. I think that DC wants the district to be a place that people want to be in at a time when, downtown's not doing too hot. People aren't working in offices. The federal government's mostly still remote. Tax revenue is a huge one. I mean, the valuations of commercial office buildings downtown are tanking, and that's going to have a real impact down the line on the city's tax revenue. And so I think they're looking to diversify their tax base and say, like, hey, where else can we make up this revenue that we're losing at the K Street office that nobody's in?
Yeah, I feel like while, some office buildings are circling the drain, this sports study could also circle the drain because there's one other key, right, that has to fit into this, which is, the actual land ownership that RFK is on. Right now, the federal government owns that site. The Senate is set to vote on whether or not to lease that land to DC for RFK Stadium for 99 years. That's a really long lease. It's a bill the House has already passed. What do you think will happen there? Do you think the Senate's going to give DC this land?
It's funny. I was on sports radio talking about this like a week ago, and one of the guys interviewing me said, like, shouldn't this be the lead? Like, shouldn't we be leading with this? That all of this hinges on congressional approval before we even start talking about financing, before we even start talking about bringing an NFL team. DC needs the land. And I kind of had a moment where I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, that is the big hang up hanging over the district's ambitions to do something with this site. And so I don't know. I think it's up in the air.
And for people who don't know where that land is in DC, where is that? And has the stadium been demolished yet, the old one, or what's going on with it?
It's still there. The National Park Service has given the okay to tear it down, so it's going to get torn down eventually. But it's in Northeast, kind of right along the Anacostia River, at a point that is like between Northeast and Southeast along that line. It's near like Benning Road.
Commanders owner Josh Harris has said that he hopes the team will be back at RFK by 2030. What do you think? Do you think that timeline is likely, given we've got this study and we've, got this bill ready to go for the Senate?
It's hard to say. A million things could happen between now and then that could change this. And maybe that is reasonable, just maybe not in the district. There were rumors of them looking in Virginia about a year or two ago. Yeah, there was talk of like putting it in Woodbridge. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just like, it's really hard to prognosticate these things.
Yeah, well, when they finally get the land, if they ever do get the land, and if the study gets completed, Ben, thank you for your time. We'll be sure to have you back on to explain it all for us again.
Yeah, thank you so much.
That's all for today here on CityCast DC. If you enjoyed the show, tell us someone who you'd go to a Commanders game with. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. See ya.